Former New Zealand all-rounder and our expert here on WION, Chris Harris, had predicted right before the series that he sees India winning this 4-1. Chris, congratulations on that spot-on call.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I knew the form that India are in. It was always going to be tough for Australia and India, but India just continued in their fine form and obviously just in all facets were able to put Australia under pressure, and they thoroughly deserved to win. I thought they absolutely outplayed Australia in all areas.
And what a role this Indian team is on right now, Chris. They've now won 15 of their last 18 bilateral series across formats. More vitally, they appear to be improving with every passing series.
Yeah, it's a bit scary for all those other teams in the world. They're playing some superb cricket, and it's just what has almost been pleasing from an Indian point of view. Even people that they've brought in and they've taken players out, and they've, you know, people like Yadav was unavailable for this particular series, as it turned out. Rahane stepped into that opening role and did a magnificent role, and also, or a magnificent job, and also the spinners and all the seamers bowled really well as well, and a couple of young spinners did a great job. So Indian cricket are in very, very good position, not only with their current stocks, but also what's coming up and the experience they're giving some of the younger players.
Yes, lots of positives for India, as you just alluded to, Chris. Let's look at them one by one, and where better to begin than Hardik Pandya. He'd shown sparks before, but in the years to come, we'll perhaps look back at this series as the one where he came of age.
Yeah, it's interesting as an all-rounder. When one part of your game's going well, it tends to be both parts. And, you know, obviously his batting at times destroyed Australia and just put the icing on the cake for India. Played a couple of magnificent match-winning innings. But also his bowling. I mean, he's always a little bit expensive because he's looking for wickets. But what he did well in this series is he picked up wickets at valuable times. So, you know, his contribution was massive throughout this series. And I think for series to come, he's going to be a very, very dangerous player for a lot of sides.
I know you were also hugely pleased, Chris, by the two wrist spinners, Yuzvendra, Chahal and Kuldeep, Yadav. More than the numbers in the wickets, they showed heart, the heart you want spinners to display in this T20 age of cricket. Yeah,
absolutely. For two young cricketers to come in, reasonably inexperienced. You know, you look at the people that are on the sideline, as in Ashwin and Jadeja, obviously big shoes to fill, and they did a magnificent job filling those shoes. The other thing I like is the fact that Kohli, and I'm sure with some advice from Dhoni, they attack with these bowlers as well, so they're always looking to take wickets. And what they did well, even though at times they got hit occasionally, he had faith in them, and they had people in wicket-taking position, short cover, a slip quite often, even in the later overs. And that turned out to be very, very good captaincy, and just showing that he had faith and support in these two young spinners who bowled beautifully throughout the series.
Bowlers love hunting in pairs, don't they, Chris? And while you had Chahal and Yadav holding fort in the spin department, Bhuvneshwar Kumar and Jasprit Bumrah continued to raise their stocks as death bowlers primarily. Another area India has been lacking in for years.
Yeah, it's really important that your opening bowlers or your seamers that bowl at the top of the innings have got the ability to get wickets at the start, as both of those players do. But where they really come into their own is at the death. We know how important those last 10 overs are, and we saw throughout this series that those last 10 overs for India were pretty much what made it easier for them, if you like, to get across the line against Australia. I don't know how many times Australia got themselves in a position to get not only 300, but to go way beyond it, and they only managed it once. And coincidentally, that was the one game that they won. And it was mainly thanks to the seamers that bowled at the end. Kumar and Bumrah bowled beautifully at the death, as did a lot of the Indian seamers.
Speaking of partnerships, what about India's opening partnership? I've got a number for you. 800 plus stands for Indian openers this year. That's an all-time high for any team in one-dayers. And with Rahane playing the way he did in Shikhar Dhawan's absence, there's great cover too.
The great thing about Rahane is he can bat anywhere in the order, and one of the toughest places to bat, because you've got to try and create a bit of a strike rate, is up the top, especially as India have done recently. And I thought he played that. He came in and did that role magnificently. And I guess Shikhar Dhawan would be a little bit nervous, although I think there's no question if he's fit and ready to go that he'll get straight back in. But it's very hard to leave Rahane out, so he may have to go slide into that sort of 4 spot or somewhere around there. But yeah, great signs. That's the exciting thing about India. It's not just the current crop of players, but it's also the players on the fringes. They know if there's an injury or if someone steps out. You know, India relied so much on Kohli in recent series, I guess, or in recent years, but it just shows how many world-class players they now have. And by Kohli standards, he didn't have a very good series from a batting point of view, and that was because so many others stepped up. So, yeah, it's in terrific shape in all departments, and especially at the top of the order, just so many options.
At the other end of the spectrum, Chris, if you look at Australia, one glaring mistake, as you pointed out earlier, was a failure to capitalise on good starts, and they paid dearly for that throughout the series.
Yes, Australia will be very disappointed with the starts that they got and the fact that they didn't finish. But I guess in their defence, we've got to give credit where credit's due, and to the Indian side, as I mentioned to Kohli before, some of his, I thought, aggressive fielding positions. You even heard the commentators talking about it. You know, it's really interesting at this stage of the game to have a slip, but that was the faith that he had in the spinners. And what India, I thought, did really well, which they haven't done so much in the past, but are really starting to do it now because they've got faith in all of their bowlers. They're consistently looking for wickets at every department of the innings, even towards the end. And we know if you get wickets, you can slow the things up. And I thought India did that beautifully. As I said, Australia looked as though they should have gone past 300 on at least 3 occasions, got themselves in a position at the top of the order, but just couldn't do it. So they'll be disappointed, but I think you have to take your hat off to India, the bowlers and the captaincy. I think that's what made it so tough for Australia.
And they aren't done just yet. The T20 series comes up next. A few tactical changes, of course, in both setups. Do you see Australia salvaging something before their departure?
Oh, look, I think they can. I think you've got to be very careful. You've got a lot of experienced players in the Australian side, not only in T20 cricket, but in Indian conditions. And we know the likes of, you know, some of their top order, Warner, Finch, I think Maxwell will come back in, you know, Faulkner. These guys have got the ability on their own and a little 10-over stint to take the game away, as a lot of the Indian players have as well. So, you know, Australia really needs some of those senior players, especially in the T20 format, to step up. And we've seen in the one-day format, to compete against India in India, you have to score 300 plus. So I don't think it's going to be too much different in the T20 format. They're going to have to get as close as they can to that 200 mark. So I believe they have got the batsmen to do it, and I think this T20 or this 20-over series will be a lot closer than the one days.
All right then, Chris, since you've started this role of oracle so brightly with that 4-1 prediction for the ODIs, why don't we put you on the spot again? Let's have a prediction on the T20 series now.
So there's 3, isn't there?
Yeah, it is 3 matches.
So 2-1 to India.
2-1 to India, says Chris Harris on the T20 series. This after getting the ODI prediction, of course, as it turned out to be 4-1 in India's favour.